Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news on the evolving weather situation in Tasmania. Residents living along the Derwent River between Meadowbank to Macquarie Plains are being told to evacuate their properties with floodwaters rising. People living near the Styx River between Bushy Park to Macquarie Plains have also been asked to leave or to prepare to. The SES is urging those who have a flood emergency plan to use it now.
Worsening conditions for those near the banks of the River Derwent. People advised to pack up and leave.
Last night the water came up. You couldn't see the road at all the way down.
Residents near the Derwent River and in Meadowbank, Bushy Park and Macquarie Plains told to evacuate now after they were warned to prepare to leave today. The rapidly rising levels causing havoc.
We're taking as many precautions as we can. Got a suitcase packed in case.
We do have a major flood warning out for the Derwent. It is likely we will see major flooding at below Meadowbank overnight tonight and during tomorrow.
We just don't know what's going on with it, so we're going to get a couple more days of rain too, so that might make a big difference too.
Isolated rainfall totals have surpassed 50 millimetres across the Derwent catchment in the past 24 hours. And it's not over yet, with the conditions to continue.
There's a lot of isolated residents right throughout that area. We've been doing proactive door knocking through the morning to make sure people are aware of the danger that it is coming.
The evacuation centre ready and waiting to house those needing shelter, with extra crews on hand ready to respond.
We're monitoring road conditions. We'll close roads where we need to and provide advice to the community.
With more rain on the way, authorities are warning people that flooding has the potential to leave properties isolated, sometimes for days at a time, urging residents to be as prepared as possible for conditions to worsen.
Probably the biggest message at the moment is if you don't need to travel, if you don't need to leave home, please stay at home.
The state government announcing it will lend a hand to residents and councils that are impacted.
Grants of up to $250 for individuals and $1,000 for families that are affected.
Updates are available on the Tas Alerts app. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Tasmanians are still without power tonight after last night's wild winds lashed the state. Emergency services are still on high alert, responding to hundreds of requests.
Wild weather that won't give up, destructive winds wreaking havoc across the state.
Some stations reported some of their strongest gusts on record.
Some parts experiencing up to 180 kilometre gusts, the strongest record in decades. Trees and power lines downed, with the SES working through the night responding to hundreds of calls for help.
Work through some of those requests. We've had to triage those because of the sheer volume, and we're going to continue to work through those.
The overnight storms causing widespread blackouts, 2 transformers blowing in Launceston, leaving tens of thousands of households and businesses without power, many still in the dark tonight.
We've been hit very hard overnight, particularly along the north coast and the west. We have currently over 280 outages and about 30,000 customers without power.
In some parts, it isn't expected to be restored until Monday afternoon at the earliest. Much of the west coast is cut off due to fallen trees.
Our communities of Strawn and Zine have both lost power. The winds were pretty bad last night, that's for sure, yeah.
Meanwhile, 38 of Telstra's mobile base stations are offline, most in northern Tasmania. 2,000 properties are without a landline service.
Power outages may persist in certain areas, but the Tas Networks crews are doing dangerous work in difficult conditions. We're asking for the community to please be respectful as they continue that important work.
While winds are expected to ease in the coming days, the Weather Bureau is warning we're not out of the woods yet, with heavy rainfall and flooding still a threat.
However, just because the weather is settled doesn't mean that the rivers won't be rising, so we do have an enhanced flood risk over the next day or two.
Tasmanians urged to keep battening down the hatches. Rebecca Gaidaneris, 7 Tasmania News.
The opposition has doubled down on claims Tasmania's debt and the upcoming budget will bring bad news for essential public services.
Our public services are already at breaking point. Salt Lake's report says that the record levels of debt and deficit are entirely down to the Liberal government's policy settings the past 10 years.
The Premier says now is not the time to be playing politics, especially during a severe weather event.
This is a time in these circumstances when we rally around each other, when we thank our SES personnel for the very great work that they're doing.
The budget is set to be handed down in less than a fortnight. Tasmanian dads have been spoilt with love and plenty of hugs in honour of Father's Day. Despite a cold and dreary day, spirits were high, with many making the most of celebrating their heroes.
The wet and dreary weather not dampening any moods for dads, enjoying some family fun time at Riverdale Estate's Father's Day show in Hobart.
We've managed to have a nice lunch and chill out with family. It's been good.
Dads treated to a display of vintage cars and tractors, while the kids got around feeding some farm animals.
The weather hasn't been in the best of ways for us, but we've still adapted the show and people are having a great time.
It's a day all about the fathers, but not necessarily a day off from their duties, because from the shoulder rides to the cuddles, it's dads doing what dads do best. What do you like most about him?
He's funny and caring. I love that he takes care of others and loves others, and I love that he does things for me.
The celebrations spanning generations, all raising a glass to a job well done.
I'm 88, so I reckon I've had a few. A challenge, but it's the best thing in the world, best job in the world.
Something new and recent dads can look forward to.
An awesome experience so far, and I'm sort of sure they'll continue when it happy.
Rebecca Gaidaneris at 7, Tasmanian News.
It appears more Tasmanians are ditching the car for public transport. The state government's touting the rollout of its half-price fares, with many people said to be opting to use a ferry instead. Derwent Ferries has seen a 13% increase in passenger numbers from the same time last year, while bus riders saw a modest rebound in July this year with an almost 5% jump. But the Greens are calling for buses to be free, saying halving prices isn't enough for our public transport system. The measure will remain in place statewide until June next year. Australians can now skip the queues in Service Australia centres as Centrelink expands its online booking system nationwide. It follows a successful trial rolled out in Tasmania, allowing customers to pre-book and self-manage appointments across more than 300 services. The Minister for Government Services, Bill Shorten, says a recent staff recruitment blitz has already helped reduce claim backlogs and phone wait times.
Good evening. Hobart 12 today, 14 in Launceston, Devonport and Burnie. 16 on King Island and Friendly Beaches, 15 for Flinders Island and Smithton. Low Head, St Helens and Marai Island 14, 13 for Strawn, Bushy Park 12 and 6 for Lyoini. Cloudy conditions continued about the west today with fast-moving low clouds seen elsewhere. A frontal band of thick cloud approached the state on the very first day of spring. Tomorrow, a strong cold front will pass across the state. West to northwesterly winds increasing up to 50 knots, with westerly swells expected to rise to 8 metres. A severe weather warning continues for the majority of the state tomorrow. A storm force warning is in place for waters between Sandy Cape to St Helens Point. There is a gale warning for all remaining coastal waters and a strong wind warning for the Central Plateau and Southwest Lakes. A coastal hazard warning remains for parts of the islands and areas of the west and north. Flood warnings remain for the River Derwent, Mersey and Meander, North and South Esk, St Patrick's and the Styx and Tyne rivers. Please stay up to date on the Tas Alert website for all flood information. There is also a warning to sheep graziers for many parts of the state and a bushwalkers weather alert for the Western and Central Plateau forecast districts. 12 and easing showers in Hobart tomorrow. Rain also easing in Dover 10, 9 degrees and much the same for Ooze. Rain also easing in Launceston and Devonport with 12, 11 and showery across Scottsdale. Wet and windy in Burnie and Strawn 11, much the same in Stanley with 12. Rain easing, although remaining windy for St Helens and Swansea 13. Those showers likely to ease in Ross, 10's the top. Tuesday, light showers about the west, fine elsewhere, although snow falling to 700 metres about the west. Wednesday, fine apart from showers developing about the north and west. And on Thursday, showers continue mainly about the north and west. Here's what's happening towards the mainland tomorrow. 17 are morning showers in Adelaide, showers easing in Melbourne 14. Cloudy conditions continue across the state. Hobart 8 degrees, 10 in Launceston and 11 in Devonport. A very happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, Lou, especially our emergency service workers, keeping us safe.
Yes, no doubt they'll be working through the night tonight. Thank you for that, Kaya. That's all your news for this Sunday night. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe and please take care. Good night.